Hello, this is Marcus Pulis, and this is Voluntary Visions. This week, I'm going to be covering someone for Forgotten Freedom Fighters that I think is very timely. Right now in France, their government is corrupt, and they are using tear gas on their citizens, rubber bullets. They've gone to even having live ammunition at the ready to use against the Yellow Vest movement. The Yellow Vest movement, depends on who you ask what they're all about. I don't know that they're voluntarists, but they are out there standing up to a government that has gone too far and is corrupt, and they're bringing attention to that. Now, I'm not trying to say that the French government is worse than the Chinese government was in 1989. Because Tank Man was a brave man who stood up against that oppression. I'm not trying to say that this is exactly the same thing, because it isn't. We might be able to get this handled before those rubber bullets and smoke grenades and flashbang grenades and water cannons turn into live bullets. The French police have been issued live ammunition, and I think that is key. In 1989, the West got mad, and now the media covers it up. So I think that it is extremely important to show what should be done. This series has covered a variety of individuals who have meant something to the freedom movement. I have sought to bring back into the light people who time and government want to forget. Tank Man is another sort of freedom fighter. He was forgotten almost before he appeared. The fact is that he may be more important than anyone I have covered yet. April 15th, 1989, an influential former Communist Party member named Hu Yubang died. Maybe I mispronounced his name, I'm not sure. He was a voice for democratic reform within the party. 3 days later, thousands of young Chinese students marched in Tiananmen Square, which is located in the center of the Chinese capital, Beijing. These students were mourning the passing of Hu and calling for more reform in his honor. More than 100 students staged a hunger strike in the square on May 13th to further bring attention to the Chinese people's want and need for a freer society. Within days, the number of people participating in the strike rose into the thousands. Revolution was brewing in the hearts of the Chinese youth. By the 19th, it is estimated that the demonstration drew 1.2 million people. This activism wasn't something that was just going to go away. The government was being directly challenged. The General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party was forced to appear at the protest and beg them to end the demonstrations and go home. The Premier of China, Li Peng, imposed martial law as a result of these people refusing to submit to the will of the government. As might be expected, the Western media covered the story as a turning point in Chinese history. This coverage was garnering support globally for the students and threatening the authoritarian government. Those in power feared that the uprising would spread. On June 1st, Chinese officials stopped all American coverage of the events taking place. Even photographs were prohibited. Beyond limiting the coverage of the protests, they also forbid the filming of Chinese troops. The following day, a concert with over 100,000 people in attendance was held in support of the demonstrations by a singer, Hu Dejing. I'm hoping that's right. The will of the people was clear. They wanted freedom and were not backing down. On June 4th, at 1 a.m. in the morning, the Chinese military entered Tiananmen Square. Chinese troops opened fire on their own people, who were mostly students. The Chinese government has never released the death toll. The estimate ranges from several hundred to thousands. Under siege, the demonstrations came to an abrupt end. The might of the Chinese military had rolled over peaceful protesters and killed children in the name of the state. It was apparent that the government was all-powerful and in command until the next day. As the tanks continued to advance on the square, an unknown man, in an iconic feat of bravery, took a stand. A column of tanks pushed forward towards the former protest site, yet one man stood in their way. This one unidentified man bravely said no. With his shopping bags in hand, he stepped in front of the first tank and dared it to continue. When the force of the Chinese army and its tyrannical government were pushing forward, all it took to halt them in their tracks was one man. The tank stopped. The man appeared to talk to the commander of the tank. Then the man climbed on top of the tank and sat for a few moments. After he slid down to the side of the tank began to move again. The man again ran in front and stood. Several moments passed. A few people rushed in to push the man away. It remains uncertain exactly who they were. No one really knows who the brave resistor actually was. Some people have identified him as a 19-year-old student named Wang Weilin, based on his disappearance after the protests. Weilin's family feared that he had been put to death. General Secretary Jiang Zemin said that he did not know the man's name and was unaware of him being arrested. There was another report that the man was an archaeologist who joined the demonstrations. The report goes on to say that he escaped to Taiwan and worked for the National Palace Museum. Officials deny this. A special assistant to former President Nixon, Bruce Hershenson, has reported that the man was executed 14 days after the event. Who knows where he got his information from? Perhaps no one knows the tank man's identity or fate. Who this man is does not matter. What does matter is what he proved. The estimates say that over 10,000 people were arrested on top of the thousands killed in Tiananmen Square. Dozens of people were executed because of their participation in the demonstration. One man stopped all of that for a moment. The meaning of Tiananmen is gate to peace. This is a perfect descriptor for who the tank man is. He is the strength of one man to stand in the face of death and announce to the world that the destructive power of government will not be unopposed. All over the world we saw as this one man stood down the Chinese oppression. He also was not alone. Two people must be recognized as aiding the tank man. First is the driver of the tank. He did not just run him over. In choosing to respect tank man's life, he acknowledged his rights of the government's proclamations. The driver made that choice twice, faced again with choosing life or his orders. As we end the violence that is government, we will need soldiers to disobey their orders. It is important that those who are in our military choose life over the death they are ordered to inflict. We see this choice being reflected in the decline in reenlistments in this country. Americans are choosing not to fight in foreign lands for empire. Those who return are sharing their experiences and becoming activists. People like Adam Kokesh are not only realizing the racket that is government and war, but they are spreading this truth to the world. The second person who aided Tank Man is the photographer, who not only captured the film in defiance of the Chinese order to censor, but hid the film until he could retrieve it and released it to the world. We need him now too. Our media is nothing more than a propaganda arm of our government. Brave men and women must defy their orders and tell true stories. Ultimately, Tank Man will never be forgotten. It is appropriate that we do not know his name. He is everyone. He is you. He is me. He is anyone who fights for what is right. Tank Man is the activist in the common man, just doing his shopping, seeing injustice, and taking action. We don't need more tank men. We already have them. They are us. Again, we face similar problems in our own time. Right now, the French government is doing similar things to their people. Where are you, media? Stand up. Where are the policemen ready to stand with the French people? Where are you? We need more of you. Rise up. It's time. If you like this video, please share it, like it, and if you're watching this on BitChute, please hit that green button. I want to do more videos. I want to up my production. I have plans for the future. If you want to donate to me in cryptocurrency, comment, and I will get back with you. If you have a question or a comment, please leave it below. Thank you very much for your time.